although I'm going over this, the best way to do it would be to actually type these in to Spider and then try to see what goes on. Okay, so for the first code, I typed it in here. Let me make it bigger. Okay. And then I ran it. I'll just run again. Okay, so if I run it, it prints list B as this. And let's see what this does. So it makes list A of Manx, Koret, Cymric, and list B of Ossicat. And these are like the breeds of cats. And list B append list A1. Okay. Now the question is, what is list A1? Is it Manx or Koret? It's the Koret, because Python index system starts from 0, right? Manx is 0, Koret is 1. Okay. So it takes in Koret and puts into list B. So when it prints list B, what happens? You see two breeds are plugged in, right? Ossicat and Koret is put in. Now, then in line 5, what it does is it goes through every element of list A and does a loop. It executes line 6, and every time it gets executed, this cat fetches one element of list A one by one. So first it becomes the Manx, then it becomes Koret, and then it becomes Cymric. Okay? And what it does is it just keeps appending. So question, after this is executed, how many elements should list B have? It's a simple question.
3.
No. Before this for loop's executed, how many elements did list B have? 2, right? It was Ossicat and Koret, okay? And now what it's doing is it's going through every element of list A and it's appending them. So how many elements would B have after this is executed? Yeah? 5, of course, right? Yeah. So Manx and Koret and Cymric will be executed. So if you ask what list B is now, it's going to have 5 elements. Now, if you look at the choices, I think, all right, so the answer to the first one is this gets executed. And then if you look at the choices, I think some people might be choosing A instead of D because you see the Koret is repeated twice, and you're kind of wondering what Python does when you try to include identical elements again. And the answer is, well, Python doesn't care when you append to the list. So list B will be allowed to have repeated elements. That's fine. There is another data type where you're not allowed to have a repeated element, and that's called set. So if I say set B equals to list set of the list B, and see what's in set B, now you see that Koret appears only once because it already has this, right? And if I look at commands in set B, you can do remove, add. You can do add. So if you do set B dot add, say, what's another Siamese? I don't know. Is that a breed? I don't know about cats. I don't even know if that's the correct spelling. Set B, if I look at set B, it says there's this thing that we just added, right? And then, however, if we try to add to set B, coret it doesn't complain, but it doesn't add a new element because it's a set. So sets are not allowed to have repetitions, whereas lists do. So if you go back to list B, if you make a list out of this set B, then you add another, so let me look at set list B. So now list B is simply a list version of this set. I don't know exactly how the index system works here. It's probably, my hunch is that these items have their own memory address, and it's using memory address to order these things. But anyways, if you do list B dot append coret, then lists do allow repetition, so you see that it's added. So that's what this, A is 17 and B is 3. The first thing says print A plus int B. Okay, what do you think A plus int B would give you? 20, right? Because what is this int? Int means it's an integer. What's an integer? It's a number which doesn't have any decimal parts, right? It doesn't have dots. Okay, so like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then -1, -2. So it takes this string. Notice that there's a quotation around 3, so it takes a string and turns that into a number so that it can be added to 17. So 17 plus 3 gives you 20, right? On the other hand, look at what the second thing is doing. It says string, str, string of A. So what this does is it turns the 17 as a number 17 to, it turns the 17 into a string 17, which is, it thinks of it as a letter 1 and letter 7. Okay? And if you have two strings, the addition has a different meaning. What's the meaning of the addition among strings? Yes? Yeah, it concatenates. It's a string concatenation. So what it does is it takes one and then the other one it concatenates. Okay. Now what? Yeah. So let's try to see what happens here. A is 17. B is equal to quotation 3. Print A plus integer of B, comma, string of A plus B, and it does 173. Okay, so yeah, I guess that the choices are slightly wrong. I should fix this. Oh, that's not what I wanted. I should fix this, which is, where was it? Here, yeah. I should fix this. It doesn't have these parentheses. I should probably have just asked what this is. Instead of print, I should just have asked what this tuple is. Okay? You know, in Python, there's a data type called tuple, which is like lists, but it's immutable as opposed to lists being mutable. So if you make this data type, then it will be represented on the screen like this one. Okay. All right. Next, what is this one? A equals to 0 for B in range 172. A is equal to A plus B. Print A. Okay. Can somebody explain to me what 172 means? Range 172. Okay, what does this first number represent? It's the number where it starts. Okay. What about the 7? No, this will be where it should end. Actually, it's the number where just one before when it ends. Okay, this is the number one. So this range. If I didn't provide the second number 2, then if I only had 1, 7, then range 1 through 7 is going to produce 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. By the way, range is iterable, and it doesn't actually produce the data themselves. So if I do range 1, 7, it just says range 1, 7. It's a range object. To actually change this into a data type, you have to convert it into list or set or whatever. Okay, so if I make it into list, or I can also make it a tuple, then you can see that the range object gets executed, it gets iterated, and it produces 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, but then now the question is, what does this comma 2 do? Can you guess? Make a guess. No, it doesn't. It's like it's a step size. So you don't go up by 1 each time. Rather, you go up by 2 each time. So the first number will be 1. The next number will be 3, and the next number will be 5, and the next number will be, well, 7 is not going to be produced because 7 is there. So the numbers that it generates has to be less than this number. So it will only generate 1, 3, 5. Okay. So that's what this question is about. Oh, no, that's not what it's about. Now you have to, so now you know that the range 1, 7, 2 generates 1, 3, and 5. Then you have to track what this program is doing. So the very first value of A is 0, right? And then there's a for loop where B goes through the range and it produces numbers 1, 3, and 5. So B is going to fetch numbers from this range, 1, 3, and 5. And every time it fetches a number, it executes line number 3. It doesn't execute line number 4 because it's not indented. It's only 3 is the indented part. It's part of the for loop. So, so let's kind of trace what happens. So initial value A is 0. Now when B fetches 1 and it executes line 3, what's the value of A? 1, right? 0 plus 1. And then it goes back, it's a for loop, so loops mean you repeat. So it repeats. What's the next number that B fetches? 3. So when it fetches 3, what does A become? It becomes 4 because A was 1 before, right? So you have 1 plus 3, which is 4, and 4 gets stored into A. Remember, this equal sign is not the equal sign in math, but it's an assignment operator, right? You just compute whatever that's on the right side and you assign that value to the left. That's what this equal sign means. Okay, so that's 4. And then there's another loop, another iteration of the loop where B takes the value of 5. And then what gets computed on the right side? What plus 5? 4 plus 5. Therefore, A would be 9. So what gets printed? B. 9 is the correct answer. Okay? So you have to be able to trace a for loop to figure out what the final status of this variable would be. Okay. When B is 3, right before line 3 is executed, what is the value of A? What about right after line 3? Okay? So when B fetches 3, and before line 3 is executed, what's the value of A? Do you remember? Well, we can start from beginning again. So initially, A was 0, okay? And then what's the first number that B fetches? 1, okay? It grabs 1 from the list, right? B grabs 1, and then 0 plus 1 is executed. That goes into A, so A is now 1, okay? And then you go back to line 2. It grabs, what's the next number? 3. It grabs 3, right? It grabs 3. And before line 3 is executed, what's the value of A here? What was it? We just went through it. It's 1. And then B, the new value is 3. So if after this line is executed, what is A? 4. Right? So the answer would be 1, and then it becomes 4. So D is the answer. Okay, what happens if line 4 is indented and executed? Okay. So what happens if line 4 is indented? Can anyone explain what would happen? What's the difference between non-indentation and indentation? Yes. Yeah. If you indent it, then the print statement becomes part of the loop, which means every time the for loop gets executed, for loop iteration happens, then that line number 4 would be executed as well. Yes. Oh, that's very good comment. Yes, yes. So it will print 149. That's very good. Yeah. So it will print 3 numbers instead of 1, right? Okay, this is kind of obvious. You know, I have to give some obvious ones, or else everyone will fail, right? A, oh, no, actually, this is not obvious. All right. So A is something like this, right? Now, just to save us from having to type, let's just say A is equal to X, Y, Z. Okay. So if you had A as X, Y, Z, and then if you say B is A dot reverse, so if you say B equals to A dot reverse, if you ask what B is, it doesn't do anything. Why? Well, this has to do with list being a data type that's mutable, as opposed to, say, string, where the data type is immutable, right? So all the string methods, what it does is it doesn't change the original data. All the methods in string, so let's say C is hello, and let's say C dot upper. Well, it will return hello as uppercase, right? It will return something. So if you do B equals to C dot upper, you see that B will have a new thing in there. On the other hand, C wouldn't be changed because C is a string which is immutable. Okay? So all the string methods would never mutate the original string. Okay? What it does is it will just return the processed string back to you. Okay? So that's why B would have this new string in there. Okay? On the other hand, list is mutable. So the Python designers, when they made list methods, instead of making lists to return something, it just operated on the original list itself. So if you ask what's in A, you'll see that it's now ZYX because you just told the Python to reverse this list. On the other hand, this method does not return anything, so B has nothing to be stored. Okay? So if you ask what the type of B is, it'll say it's a non-type. What? Oh, no, we just did that. Okay, sorry. If I do B equals to A dot reverse, and then ask what B is, it will say it's a non-type. There's nothing because this function, this method, did not return anything to it. Okay? So that's the big difference. You have to understand that there's a difference between mutable data types and immutable data types. Now, for some cases, this is not the way that you want the list method to behave. So there's some Python packages where they have a similar type as the list, but instead of methods trying to change the data, it will always return a new list to the next one. And that kind of behavior is sometimes desired if you do a lot of method chaining. We talked about method chaining before, right? If you want to apply several methods at once, you can chain the methods, but for that to work, something has to be returned. So if you want to reverse and then sort for some reason, if you want to put reverse parenthesis and then dot sort, then you can't do it with the list. You can't chain it because this does not return anything so that you can apply the method to it. All right. So let's go back, and therefore the correct answer is what? What's the correct answer? B. Yeah, B is the correct answer. B doesn't have anything, sort. Yeah, it's a non-type. A has. Okay. Yeah, and then the next one is exactly what I was trying to demonstrate there. A is a string which is immutable in Python, and therefore when you ask to replace K by M, does it change A? Does it change A? No, it doesn't. Okay. Instead, it switches K to M, and that new string is passed on to B. So now B becomes Yam. So you have Yak, and B is Yam. So the correct answer is A. So you have to know the different behaviors of how methods of a list acts and how a method of a string acts. When you write programs, this does become an important point. Sometimes you kind of confuse these 2 points and you end up thinking that, oh, B should have the reversed one, and then later your code doesn't work, and it gets a bit hard to track down what really happened. Okay? So you have to be aware of these 2 differences. Okay, if the above code is executed, what are the contents stored in B and C? All right, so here, Yak, and you get A of -1. What is A of -1? Does such a thing exist? Like, there's nothing left of, 0 is Y, right? Capital Y is 0. What would be -1? It would be the K. It will be the last one. The Python index system is designed so that if you put a negative number, it will count from the backwards. Okay, so it's the last, -1 is the last letter. If you want the second from the last letter, you put -2, and this Y could also be referenced as -3. Okay, so you have that. What is this colon 2? A colon 2. What does that mean? Colon 2 is a way to get a slice of a string where it starts from 0, ends right before this 2. So colon 2 means 0 and 1. What is the 0 and 1 element of A? It's Y and A, right? So YA would be A colon 2. And a quick way to think about this is like, oh, colon 2 fetches the first 2 letters of this string A. Okay. All right, so this fetched K, this fetched YA. So what does that give you? KYA, right? And then C is B dot lower. So it takes the KYA, this thing, and converts into lowercase KYA. So that's the answer. If the above code is executed, what will be printed? Ah, this is a trick question. Okay. We have to be careful about this. So let's see. A list is A, B, C, X, Y, Z. Now let's try to understand number 2. That seems really cryptic. If A list. What do you mean by that? A list. Well, in Python, if statements want to see if something is true or false, right? But sometimes you can just pass on anything, and what it does is it will try to convert that into a Boolean. So let me explain what I mean by this. Okay. So let's say A list is quote ABC and XYZ. And if you convert bool, so let me convert B, which was non-type, right? So if I convert bool to a non-type into a Boolean, which is true and false, it gives you false, right? On the other hand, if you do bool of A list, because A list is something that's not a non-type, there is actually something called A list, and it's not the non-type, so in that case it's true, right? And you can just pass on anything like ABC, some string to it, it'll still be true. Okay? Anything that's not a non-type gives you true. So in Python, there's a handy way to see if some object is well defined or not. If you've made A list something other than non-type, then line 3 should be executed. That's what it means, right? Okay. All right. So since A list does have something, right? And now you have to print A list.reverse. Oh, okay. So there is a slight problem here. This is actually a practice midterm I fetched from like 5 years ago when I taught Python class. And I think the version is different now. It used to be that if you print something that's a non-type, it prints none. But I don't think that's the case anymore. If I do print B, it used to be that, oh, it does print none. Okay. Oh, if you just ask what is B, then it, okay, yeah. If you ask what's B, then it doesn't show you anything because there's nothing in it. But if you print B, then it says none. Okay. All right. So there is the distinction, so that's okay. I thought there was some change. All right. So let's see what this does. You print A list.reverse. You execute this, and whatever that gives you, you print it. Now the problem is, what does A list.reverse do? I mean, we just did this. You know, here's a tip. If you want to do well on next Thursday's exam, you want to be actively participating. If you're doing something else in this classroom, I'm sorry, you're not going to do well next week. It's more important to know what's going on. You won't be able to just memorize these questions to hope that similar questions appear. It will look different, but the same content. Okay? It will be multiple choice, right? But it will be same content, not same questions. Right? So you really want to participate. All right, so let me ask again. What does A list.reverse do? It will reverse the order of the list. Now, what does it return? Does it return the reverse order list? No. No, we just found out that the list methods don't return you anything. It doesn't return you anything. It just operates on the A list. So if you do if A list and then do print A list dot reverse, what it's going to do is it's going to reverse this list, make it as XYZ comma ABC, but then it doesn't return anything to the print command. So what print command gets is what? None type. Yeah. Nothing. Nothing is going to be passed on to print. So because it receives a none, what it does is it'll print none. Okay? Yeah. This is the fine point that you have to understand. Okay. Yeah, so what I wanted to show you is that after this is done, if you ask what's in the A list, then you see that the original A, B, C, X, Y, Z did become reversed. All right. Okay. A list is A, B, C, X, Y, Z as before. If A list 0 is equal to A, B, C, the first item in the list is A, B, C. If the code is executed, what will be printed? The answer is not D. The answer is not D, contrary to what you think. Yes? Area curve. Very good. Yeah. Why? Double equal sign. Yeah. This is the problem. Like when you try to debug a program, sometimes it's like, I did everything right. Why is it not doing what it's supposed to do? And it's like these little things. You're supposed to have double equal signs. Now, these are annoying, in fact, when you code. And that's why when you program in these IDEs, like Python, IDE is like, what is IDE? Integrated Developing Environment. I think that's what it is. So you have IDE for Python, which is the spider that we use. There are other things like PyCharm or Visual Studio Code. Then there are Visual Studio Code is an IDE for C++, C#, and JavaScript, and many other things. You can set it up that way. And these IDEs, a lot of times, they come up with something called the linter. And linting means it catches these obvious errors. Like if there's an if statement and somebody used an equal sign, that's an obvious error, right? So linter would be telling you that you should have two equal signs. So those are caught by Python. But despite that, you should still know that in an if statement, you need two equal signs, not a single equal sign. All right, so there's this ampersand and this bar. Now, can you guess what ampersand does? We know its English meaning. What does it mean? And. So A and B is done. So it's just like a super salad situation. No, that's not good. Not super. What's a good example of an AND operator? I mean, let's say to buy this card, you first have to be over 18. Okay, yeah. So to buy wine, you first have to be above 18 or above years old, and B, you have to pay $30. Okay. And if A is true and B is false, what's A and B? False, right? You're not eligible to buy the wine because although you're over 18 years old, you don't have $30, so you can't buy this wine. Something like that, right? On the other hand, this other one would be OR. Right? It's actually inclusive OR, so it allows true to be evaluated as true. There's also the exclusive OR where true is not allowed to be that. I don't know the symbol for that. I think there's a separate comment for that one. Okay, but anyways, you have A or B. In that case, if any one of them are true, then it becomes true. So what it does is it gives you false for A and B, and it gives you true for A or B. So false, true, B is the answer. Okay, if the above code is executed, what will be printed? This is just about the not operator, right? So not false would be true, so you have true and true. So this will be true, not B will be true, true and true would be true. And you also have true and true. No, true or true. True or true is also true because this vertical bar is an inclusive or. Right. For I in range 6 through 10, okay, what does this percent thing do? It's a mod operator, right? So if you, it gives you the remainder after dividing. So let's see, this is a for loop, and the very first value I grabs from range 6 through 10 is 6. It starts from the first number. Very last number it grabs is 9. It's not 10, okay? All right, so the first number that it fetches from range 6 through 10 is 6, okay? And it does this calculation, 6 mod 2. Well, if you do 6 divided by 2, what's the remainder? Well, 0, right? Yeah, 6 divided by 2 gives you 3 as the quotient and 0 as the remainder. So it is indeed 0 after doing the mod. The remainder is 0. And anything that's divisible by 2 is an even number, right? So that's why it's saying print string I plus is an even number. Okay, so 6 is an even number. Okay, and then it also checks I percent 3. It says print. Well, 6 mod 3 is also 0. 6 is divisible by 3, so it prints 6 is a multiple of 3, so it does that. Okay. And what's the next number that I grabs? 7. Okay, so when you do 7 mod 2, is that equal to 0? No, 7 mod 2 is 1. So what happens at line number 3? It doesn't execute line number 3 because the if condition is not met, right? So now it goes to line number 4. 7 mod 3 is also 1, right? So again, it doesn't match, satisfy line number 4. It skips, so nothing gets printed when I becomes 7. Okay. Then I grabs 8. Okay. 8 is an even number, so it's going to print that. Is 8 divisible by 3? No. Then the next number is 9. 9 is not an even number, but 9 is a multiple of 3, so that's going to be printed. So it will be 6 printed twice. Oh. Yeah, this is not right. Yeah, none of the answers are right. Sorry, I made a mistake. Okay. All right. However, I do want to ask you something else. What if I change line number 4 to elif? What difference does that make? Yes?
Then it's only going to check each number for even, and if it's not even, then check multiple of 3. But if it is even, it doesn't check.
Right. So when I is 6, what's going to be printed? Just the even number. It's not going to do the next one because it's else if. If you do ELIF, that's else if. It only checks for this one when this condition is not met. Okay. So let me do a demonstration. So for I in range 6 through 10, if I%2 is 0, then print I is an even number. Okay, and then if I%3 is 0, print I is a multiple of 3. Okay. So if you do this, you'll see that it would print 6 twice, and then 8 once, and 9 once, right? And then it stops there. Right? So that's the proper answer. I didn't have that choice here, so sorry. But then, if you change this if to elif, what happens? 6 only gets printed once, because once it knows that it's an even number, it will skip the next one. Okay? So you have to know the difference between if and elif. Oh, that's the next question, yeah. If line 4 is changed to elif, what would be printed in execution? So that was the next question. Yeah, again, the correct answer is not there, so I'll have to skip this one. But do know the difference. I'll have something like this one with slight changes. All right, I thought this is going to take 2 classes. All right, let's continue. Okay. Right. What is this \n? New line. Okay. What's \t? Tab. Right. So when you execute this, then it doesn't give you \n or \t. What it does is instead you have a new line, and then there's a tab between hello and world. So print hello world like this. You see that there's a new line between them. Then if you do T, you would do this. Now, how would you make it to actually print \n then? Well, the way you do it is by using 2 backslashes. 2 backslashes mean a single backslash. So we'll do this one. Okay. There's another way to make it print exactly this, and that's a raw string. So if you do R in front of the string, it will not process these special characters and just consider it as backslash themselves. So that's what it does. So the correct answer is C. Okay, so let's we'll just go over this one, and we'll do the rest next time. Define fun x, and flag is true if x is less than 2 or x is not an integer, then the flag is false. Else for I in range 2 comma x, if x%i is equal to 0, flag is false, return flag. Okay, well that's really complicated. All right, so let's just go to 17 and see what happens. So you pass string 3 into here, okay, and flag is a variable that's set to be true. Now line number 3. This vertical bar means or. So is 3 less than 2? No. Is type of x not equals to integer? Yes, right? So it satisfies this. So it might be if the flag is false. So it should be returning false. Okay, so this is like these tricky parts where you think you coded it right, but there's like something that, you know, computer languages are very dumb. It just takes everything literally. So when it executes this, it will just produce an error, right? So if you say 3 is less than 2, that's not supported, type error, right? So if I do if 3 is less than 2 or 3 or type of 3 of course it's not, type of 3 is never an integer, but if it's not an integer, by the way, exclamation equal means not equal, okay? Not an integer type, then print false. Let's just say that. Yeah, you can see that this is not supported between instances of string and integer. So you can kind of see that the correct answer is E. Okay. Yeah. This is a tricky one. Okay. All right. Fun3. Let's think about question 18. Fun6. It returns false. Why does it return false? So when you get 6, is 6 less than 2? No, it's not. Okay. Is the type of 6 not integer? Well, it is an integer. 6 is an integer, right? You have to know what the meaning of integer means. It's a number which doesn't have any decimals, okay? So this line does not get executed. However, because none of these are executed, it now executes line 6 because of this else statement. Now in this else statement, it starts from 2 and goes until right before 6. So since x is 6, the range will be actually 2, 3, 4, 5. The numbers that range produces will be 2, 3, 4, 5. And for each one of these, it's going to check, is 6 divisible by 2? Yes, then it's false. Right? So you can kind of see what this is doing. It's really checking if it's a prime number or not. All right? So if x is a prime number, what's a prime? It's a number which has 1 and itself to be the only factors. Like numbers like 7, 11, 13. These are numbers which aren't divisible by any other number other than 1 or itself, right? So if it turns out that there is some number less than that, the given number, that does divide, then you say it's not a prime. That's what this program is really doing. Okay? So when the flag becomes false for the first time, the value of I is, for what I value did this become, this line 8 get executed? What was the I value? 2. Yeah, 2 is right. After executing fun6, typing print flag will print. That's another tricky question. All right, so So if you do define fun x, right, and then flag is true, if I'll just skip this part. If x is less than 2, I'll not do the other one. Flag is false. Else, for I in range 2 to x, if x divided by that I, if that is equal to 0, then we do the flag equals to false, and then we return flag. Okay. So we've managed to execute, make this function, which is basically the same thing. It doesn't have this extra thing, but it's basically the same thing. Now, if I do fun6, it should produce false. If I do fun7, it should produce true, right? Because 7 is a prime, right? Fun6. Let's go back. After executing this, if I do print flag, what it's going to do? What happened? Why? Why does this happen? Because variables inside a function is local. It's not global. Okay? Yeah. It's not global. So once the function is executed, Python doesn't know what happens in there. And this design is very important. In any language that I know in computer coding, you always have local and global variables, or else you can't make functions. See, what if there is another part of the code that uses the variable flag, and that person didn't make this function? See, a lot of the coding is done by a group of programmers, and they usually devote themselves to making one function, the other guy makes another function. So if all the variables are shared, then it causes a very big confusion because you never know the new variable name that you assign is actually overriding another guy's variable. That will cause a lot of side effects. It will be very bad. Okay, so that's why in any coding language, variables inside a function is local, and it says it's not defined. Okay? And here's another interesting thing. If you do flag equals to true, okay, and then you do fun6 and it gives you false, right? Now the last value that flag had was false, right? But if you do print flag, what does it print? True, because this flag is not the flag, the local variable inside the function. Instead, it's the function. It's the variable outside the function. This is the global variable. So in Python, this flag which is outside the function and this flag which is inside the function, they reside in different memory address. They share the same name, but each of them don't know about each other. Okay? All right, that's all for today.